Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Movies That Matter, where entertainment is subjective, and that's not a bad thing. This is your host, Chris Flaherty, and thank you for joining us from the podcast studio at Burlington Cable Access Television, and I am by myself today. Ahead of the 50th, I figured I would take an episode to myself, especially since it's been 2 years since my last solo outing. Today I'd like to talk about the first ever feature film starring Charles Schultz's beloved Peanuts, A Boy Named Charlie Brown. It also seemed appropriate to give Charlie Brown some love this year because next month marks the 75th anniversary of Peanuts. I don't think I could honestly say A Boy Named Charlie Brown is one of my favorite films, but a lot of what it has to say and Charlie Brown himself definitely matter to me. Released on December 4th, 1969, the film was directed by Peanuts veteran Bill Melendez, with a script by Charles Schultz himself, and stars the voices of Peter Robbins, Pamela Ferdin, and Glenn Gilger. The story is about as simple as a Peanuts story can get. The film opens on the baseball team losing another big game, and Charlie Brown in another depressed state. Charlie is convinced he might not ever succeed at anything in life. There's this great scene with Linus as they play tic-tac-toe in the dirt with sticks. Charlie Brown says it would be nice to win for once. Linus says winning isn't everything, to which our hero retorts, but losing isn't anything. They have a really nice back and forth, and they have another great exchange where Linus tells him we learn more from losing, and Charlie Brown says, that must make me the smartest person in the world. Ultimately, Linus is encouraging his friend to keep trying, and eventually he will win, because no one is a born loser. And of course, the scene ends brilliantly with Linus effortlessly beating him in tic-tac-toe. You do have to admire that Linus is very much the Jiminy Cricket shoulder angel figure in Charlie Brown's life, which is a stark contrast to his sister Lucy, who is very much Charlie Brown's shoulder devil, especially in this film. It is absolutely wild to me that Charlie Brown keeps going to Lucy for quote-unquote therapy, yet she is also his harshest critic. Well, as Lucy says, if you can't trust your therapist, who can you trust? Well, this fraud of a therapist gaslights him through an entire session just to prank him with the football again. And later she leads the other girls in a musical number called Failure Face. I digress. Charlie Brown decides to enter the class spelling bee, and surprisingly, he wins. But he doesn't stop there. He goes on to win the school-wide competition. And everybody flips on a dime and sings another song called Champion Charlie Brown. This would be an ideal place to end the film if this were any other franchise. Charlie finally emerges triumphant and the credits roll. But we're just getting started. Charlie Brown now qualifies for the nationwide spelling bee in the big city. Everyone sends him off, cheering him on, and Linus even gives him a security blanket for good luck, which he soon regrets when he starts going through what I can only describe as withdrawals, so he and Snoopy follow him to the city. Charlie Brown practices all day and night while Linus and Snoopy search the city for the blanket Charlie Brown misplaced. And where they end up finding the blanket got a good chuckle out of me. Soon enough, it's time for the National Spelling Bee. Charlie Brown is up on stage, Linus and Snoopy are in the audience, and everyone is back home watching it on TV. I don't think I've ever seen a spelling bee so intense put to film. No shade to Aquila and the Bee, I haven't seen it. And it's bizarre because it's literally just Charlie Brown and all the contestants' heads floating on a screen. And whenever someone spells a word wrong, they're eliminated or they just disappear. Maybe it's because as the viewer, you're trying to spell the words along with them. Or maybe it's just because finally, it looks like Charlie Brown is finally going to get his big win. Spoilers for a 56-year-old film, but as you probably have guessed by now, Charlie Brown does not win the National Spelling Bee. He falls short at second place, misspelling a word, which, if you haven't seen it, I won't reveal it here, but it's the textbook definition of cruel irony. The competition ends, and Charlie Brown returns home with Linus and Snoopy. In a cruel juxtaposition from when he left, absolutely no one is there to greet him. This is Charlie Brown's lowest point. He crawls into bed, draws the blinds, and vows to not go to school or try ever again. No more baseball, no more kites, no more football. A few days later, Linus visits him and can see his friend is truly at rock bottom. But here Linus delivers the line that ties the entire film together. He says to Charlie Brown, and I'm just going to quote it verbatim, "I can understand how you feel. You worked hard, studying for the spelling bee, and I suppose you feel you let everyone down and you made a fool of yourself and everything. But did you notice something, Charlie Brown? The world didn't come to an end." That will never not hit. Linus's words are sobering to Charlie Brown. He finally gets out of bed and takes a walk around the neighborhood. There's no dialogue, just music. And on his travels, he spies Lucy with the football again. Charlie Brown, his spirit rejuvenated, sneaks up on her, goes to kick the football, and she pulls it away from him again. But instead of a typical snarky remark, she welcomes him home with a warm smile, and the film ends. So yeah, I just kind of recapped the whole film for you, which isn't an unusual thing to happen on this show. But folks, I have to tell you, in my opinion, this film is a perfect character study. It is a perfect representation of who Charlie Brown is. You probably wouldn't even need to see a single additional piece of Peanuts media to understand this. You know who Charlie Brown is from beginning to end. Charlie Brown is not like, for the sake of comparison, let's say Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny or even SpongeBob SquarePants. Those guys most of the time have unwavering optimism and 9 times out of 10 are achieving their goals and happy by the time the credits roll. Charlie Brown is consistently facing uphill battles and rolling with the punches. And sometimes he doesn't get out unscathed. I mean, think about a Charlie Brown Christmas. They laugh him out of the auditorium because of his little tree. Yeah, they fix it up for him and they sing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," but is that play even going to make opening night? On Valentine's Day, Charlie Brown doesn't get any cards. During the Great Pumpkin, he gets no candy while trick-or-treating, just rocks. An old special that always sticks with me, it's called "Someday You'll Find Her, Charlie Brown." Charlie Brown sees this cute girl on TV at a baseball game. He goes on a citywide search with Linus to find her. The special ends with Linus falling head over heels for the girl and striking up a friendship with her. And Charlie Brown doesn't even end up meeting her. That is just dirty, and that never left me as a kid. But my point is, Charlie Brown has far more losses than wins, and that is what makes him such an endearing and relatable character. Charlie Brown is not perfect, but his attitude certainly is. No matter how many times he fails, he keeps trying. That is the core of the character. He never stops trying. He never gives up. Linus tells him we learn more from losing than winning, and that is the whole point of the film and the character. Yes, Charlie Brown does win a few spelling bees at the beginning, but that's not the end. There's always the next spelling bee. There's always the next baseball game. There's always more challenges that life will present us. And in many ways, that's what makes those rare wins all the more sweeter. Winning isn't final, but what's more important is that failure isn't final. You can lose and be at your lowest point, but the only way to go from there is up. It's when we give up, that is when we truly fail. I mean, to bring Batman into it for a second, Bruce, why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves up. I think everyone out there can relate to Charlie Brown in some way. We've all hit rock bottom and felt there's no way out, but there's always more to life. I know I've had those moments, some as recently as last week, but here I am. I'm still here. I'm still going. You know, ever since I was young, I've always felt a connection to Charlie Brown. I felt like the kid that everybody underestimated or looked down on, that nobody believed would, kick the football or meet the red-haired girl. That moment when he crawls into bed, draws the blinds, and basically says, "I give up." I've been there. I bet some of you have too. Those moments where life's knocked you down a little too hard, you just don't know how you're going to get up after that. But if that little kid named Charlie Brown keeps trying, why can't I? And why can't you? The main song of the film says it all. We're all a boy named Charlie Brown. We will all ultimately face failure in our lives, but failure is never final, And Charlie Brown knows at the end of the film he will never be a loser if he just keeps trying. And that is why that final scene where he tries to kick that football one more time hits so hard. I feel like I've glorified this film so much when on the surface level, A Boy Named Charlie Brown is really nothing more than a longer Peanuts special that got a theatrical release. The stakes are not much higher. Well, they are, but they're Peanuts standards. And the animation is the same quality. Actually, I could even argue that some of the specials have better animation. I think this one even reuses some from Great Pumpkin. There's also a lot of musical sequences that are what I can only describe as Charles Schultz's Fantasia. It's not a perfect film, but the fact that its message has left such an impact on me, without any flashy CGI or special effects, I think that really says it all. I do love the 2015 Peanuts movie from Blue Sky, but that one definitely tries to have its cake and eat it too, if you know what I mean. But, I still sobbed like hell watching it. But I love A Boy Named Charlie Brown even more because it doesn't give Charlie Brown the typical Hollywood happy ever after. This could have been the final time we ever saw the character on screen, and that would have been fine because at the end of the day, he does win by recognizing his own power and his own value. I don't rewatch A Boy Named Charlie Brown a lot, but when I do, it helps me get out of a funk, and it always puts a smile on my face. Linus's final line is always in the back of my head. You can lose, I can lose, but the world will not come to an end. And that is why A Boy Named Charlie Brown and a film named A Boy Named Charlie Brown matter to me. I'd just like to shout out the YouTuber Tunerific Tariq. He did a video essay on this film a few years ago that really helped me gain a better appreciation for this film. I'll link it in the description down below. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Movies That Matter. Next is the big 50th episode, and I hope you'll enjoy it. It's a pretty fun one. If you'd like to get in touch with me about the show, you can reach me either at Gmail or Instagram at Movies That Matter Pod. You can also be my friend on Letterboxd at Chris Loves Films. At this time, my last 4 watches were Hercules, Django Unchained, A Boy Named Charlie Brown, and Casablanca. Folks, the real world is scary. Don't forget to love each other, and when life gets too scary, immerse yourself in your favorite movie or piece of media. Don't worry about box office numbers or Rotten Tomatoes scores, just watch what you love. Entertainment is subjective, and that's not a bad thing. But until next time, this has been Chris Flaherty. Thank you for listening to Movies That Matter.